The Johnson family had just settled into their new home, a charming, old countryside house nestled among towering oak trees and sprawling green fields. For years, they had dreamed of escaping the busy city life, and now, with boxes unpacked and furniture arranged, the quiet rural life was finally theirs. Among the new beginnings, there was one constant companion, Max, their golden retriever. Max was the kind of dog everyone wished for, loyal, gentle, and endlessly curious. He had adapted well to the new environment, sniffing every corner and chasing shadows in the yard. But soon, something unusual caught the family's attention. It began on a cool autumn evening. Lily, their 8-year-old daughter, was getting ready for bed in her cozy bedroom at the far end of the house. Max followed her in as usual, curling up near the window and watching the leaves dance outside. But then, suddenly, Max got up, moved to the center of the room, and started scratching at the wooden floorboards right next to Lily's bed. At first, Mrs. Johnson smiled, thinking Max was just bored, trying to play. But Max wasn't wagging his tail or barking. He was intensely focused, scratching and digging with such urgency that it almost seemed like a message. Lily giggled at first, but as Max's scratching grew louder and more persistent, her smile faded. Max seemed restless, and the room felt different, charged, almost alive. The next night, it happened again, and the night after that, too. Every evening, as the family settled down, Max would trot into Lily's room and begin his strange ritual, scratching at the same spot on the floor. What made it stranger was that Max would whimper softly, a sound that tugged at the heartstrings, as if he was trying to tell them something important. The Johnsons tried to ignore it at first, chalking it up to quirks, or maybe Max chasing invisible bugs. But as the days passed, the scratching became impossible to overlook. Mr. Johnson, a practical man who believed in clear explanations, started paying closer attention. One evening, Mr. Johnson stayed in Lily's room after Max began scratching. He crouched down, listening carefully to the sound, the faint scrape of claws on wood. He pressed his ear to the floor and noticed a hollow echo beneath the planks. That was unusual. Houses did creak, of course, but this felt different, like there was a secret cavity just below. Curiosity piqued. Mrs. Johnson tried to distract Max by throwing his favorite ball, but nothing worked. Max refused to leave the spot. The dog's eyes were intense, focused, almost pleading. Even Lily, who adored Max, was beginning to feel unsettled. One night, after Lily was tucked in and the house was quiet, Mr. Johnson whispered to his wife, "I think Max wants us to find something." Mrs. Johnson nodded, her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and nervousness. What could it be? A hidden treasure? A secret from the house's past? They hadn't lived in the house long enough to know its full history, but they had heard rumors from the neighbors about its age and the many families who had called it home. Old houses often held mysteries, forgotten objects, hidden compartments, or tales waiting to be uncovered. Could Max have sensed something no one else could? The following day, the family decided to look more closely. Mr. Johnson lifted Lily's rug and ran his hand along the floorboards. One plank, near the wall, felt slightly loose. It didn't seem accidental. It was almost as if it had been purposely set to hide something. Underneath, Max's persistent scratching had led them to a secret that had been waiting patiently for years. The dog's unusual behavior wasn't just a quirk. It was a clue, a silent plea to uncover what lay beneath the floor. For the Johnsons, that evening marked the beginning of a mystery that would change their lives. Max, their loyal golden retriever, had opened the door to a story buried deep in time, one that was about to reveal secrets no one expected and touch the hearts of everyone involved. And all because a dog wouldn't stop scratching under a child's floor. Asterisk, as the days passed, Max's obsession with scratching beneath Lily's bedroom floor only grew stronger. The family found themselves watching in quiet fascination and growing concern as the dog returned every evening, pawing and scratching at the same exact spot. It was no longer just a curious habit. It felt urgent, as if Max was desperately trying to send a message. Lily, once excited to have her dog so close at night, had begun to dread bedtime. "Mom, I don't want to sleep in my room anymore," she confessed one afternoon, her small face serious. "Max won't stop scratching, and it feels weird." Her parents tried to reassure her, attributing Max's behavior to perhaps a trapped mouse or a rat. But thorough checks around the room revealed no signs of pests. There were no holes, no scurrying sounds, no droppings. The walls, the floor, all appeared normal. Still, Max refused to be deterred. Night after night, he would scratch in the same spot, sometimes whining softly, sometimes barking low and restless. It was clear he sensed something beneath the floorboards, something the family couldn't yet see or understand. Mr. Johnson decided it was time to investigate further. He was a man of logic and reason, but Max's persistent behavior had planted a seed of doubt. Could a dog really sense something hidden? Was this just a coincidence? One afternoon, he returned to Lily's room with a flashlight and a small crowbar, determined to examine the floor more carefully. He knelt down and ran his hand over the surface, feeling the grain of the wood. His fingers traced the faint scratches Max had made, and then, carefully, he pressed on the plank Max targeted. To his surprise, the wood shifted slightly under his pressure. "That's odd," he muttered, calling Mrs. Johnson over. Together, they tested the floorboards. One board near the corner of the room was slightly looser than the others. It didn't feel like damage. It was almost as if it had been designed to lift. The possibility of a hidden compartment took root in their minds. Could someone long ago have stashed something beneath the floor? While they pondered, Max sat nearby, watching intently, his tail wagging with cautious hope. The following evening, the family gathered in Lily's room. The sun was setting, casting warm orange light through the window. Lily clutched her stuffed bunny tightly, still nervous, but curious. Max stood by the suspicious plank, ready to scratch again. Mr. Johnson took a deep breath and grabbed the crowbar. With a careful, steady motion, he pried up the loose board. It came free with a creak. It echoed through the quiet room, revealing a dark, hollow space beneath. Inside the cavity was a small wooden box, covered in dust and cobwebs. It looked old, fragile, and untouched for many years. Mrs. Johnson gasped. What could this be? Who left it here? Lily's eyes widened. Maybe it's a treasure. Max sniffed the air excitedly, his nose twitching as he leaned toward the box. The family carefully lifted the box out of the hidden compartment and placed it on Lily's bed. The box was heavier than it looked, sealed with a delicate latch that seemed worn, but still functional. Mr. Johnson gently opened it. Inside, they found old photographs, faded, but still clear enough to show a young girl with a bright smile, a silver locket resting on a velvet cushion, and a leather-bound diary with a cracked spine. The family exchanged amazed glances. This wasn't just a forgotten trinket. It was a piece of history, a glimpse into a life once lived within these very walls. Mrs. Johnson carefully picked up the diary and ran her fingers over the warm cover. "This might tell us everything," she said softly. Lily sat on the bed, wide-eyed, as the room suddenly felt alive with stories and secrets. Max, who had led them to this discovery, wagged his tail happily, as if proud of his work. But as they looked around the old house, the Johnsons realized this was only the beginning. What story did this box hold? Who was the girl in the photographs? And why had her precious belongings been hidden away for so long? The mystery beneath Lily's floor had grown deeper, and no one in the family could wait to uncover what lay ahead. The moment Mr. Johnson lifted the loose floorboard and revealed the hidden compartment, the Johnson family felt a rush of excitement mixed with uncertainty. What they held in their hands was a time capsule, a secret box that had somehow escaped notice for decades. But as curiosity swelled, so did the weight of responsibility. They knew this discovery wasn't just a simple family keepsake. It was a fragile link to a past they didn't yet understand. After carefully placing the wooden box on Lily's bed, Mr. Johnson looked at his wife and daughter. "We need to be careful," he said. "Whatever this is, it's important." Mrs. Johnson nodded, brushing a few specks of dust from the diary's leather cover. "Maybe we should start by reading the diary," she suggested softly. "It might explain why these things were hidden here." Lily hovered close, her eyes shining with curiosity despite her earlier fears. Max sat quietly by her side, sensing the tension but also the excitement in the room. With gentle hands, Mrs. Johnson opened the diary to its first page. The handwriting was neat but faded, each word written in ink that had yellowed over time. The diary belonged to a girl named Emily, who had lived in the house during the 1950s. As Mrs. Johnson began reading aloud, the room fell silent except for the soft scratching sounds from Max's paws on the wooden floor. Emily's words were full of youthful hope and bittersweet longing. She wrote about her daily life, her dreams of adventure, and her secret hiding place beneath the floorboards, where she kept her most treasured belongings. The diary was like a window into a world long gone, a world that had once breathed life into the very walls of this house. But as they read on, the tone shifted. Emily wrote about feeling lonely, about a sadness that crept in despite the laughter around her. She mentioned a dog she loved, a loyal companion who was her best friend. The dog's name wasn't written clearly, but a sketch beside the entry looked remarkably like a golden retriever, like Max. The family listened in awe. Could this be a connection to their own beloved dog? The thought sent a chill through Mr. Johnson's spine. Then, a sudden noise startled them, a creak from the hallway outside. The house, old and full of stories, seemed to groan as if reacting to the awakening of its long-held secret. Mrs. Johnson closed the diary gently. "We need to find out more about Emily," she said. "But first, we should make sure everything stays safe." Mr. Johnson agreed. They decided to leave the box and diary on the bed for now, but agreed to handle them with care. The questions racing through their minds felt urgent. Who was Emily? What had happened to her? And why had she chosen this secret hiding place? Meanwhile, Max seemed more relaxed, as if he had fulfilled a mission. Yet sometimes he glanced toward the floor, as if sensing there was still more beneath the surface, waiting to be found. Later that evening, the Johnsons spoke with their neighbors, hoping to gather pieces of the house's history. To their surprise, a few older residents remembered Emily. She was described as a bright, kind-hearted girl who had lived here with her family many years ago. But the neighbors' stories were tinged with sadness. Emily had passed away young, and the family had left the town soon after. No one had ever mentioned the hidden box, though. It seemed the diary and keepsakes had been lost to time, until now. Despite the thrill of the discovery, the Johnsons knew they were walking a fine line. The house held more secrets than they realized, and some might not want to be uncovered. One evening, while discussing what to do next, Mr. Johnson hesitated. Should we call someone? A historian? Maybe a professional who can help us learn more? Mrs. Johnson considered it, but was wary. I want to keep this personal, she said. It feels like Emily's story belongs here, with us. Lily chimed in quietly. Max found it for a reason, right? Maybe we're supposed to help. That night, as the family settled into their new routine with the secret box between them, Max lay by Lily's bed, his eyes bright with awareness. had begun as a dog's strange obsession was turning into a journey through time, one filled with discovery, emotion, and the risk of uncovering truths that could change everything the Johnson family thought they knew about their home. They didn't yet know what the next steps would bring, but one thing was clear: they couldn't turn back now. The next morning, a calm but determined energy filled the Johnson household. The mystery had captured everyone's attention, turning an ordinary day into something extraordinary. With the diary in box now the center of their curiosity, the family gathered in Lily's room to explore what had been hidden away beneath the floor. For decades, Mrs. Johnson gently lifted the silver locket from the box, holding it carefully in her hands. It was small but exquisitely detailed, with delicate engravings around its edge. She opened it to reveal a tiny faded photograph inside. A woman's face, serene and kind, with eyes full of warmth. Who could she be? Lily whispered, peering over her mother's shoulder. I don't know, Mrs. Johnson replied, but she must have meant a lot to whoever kept this. Mr. Johnson picked up the faded photographs next. They showed a young girl, likely Emily, smiling brightly in a sunlit garden, clutching a dog that looked strikingly like Max. In another photo, Emily stood with a woman and man who looked to be her parents, all dressed in clothes from another era. As they examined the photos, Mrs. Johnson opened the diary to a new page, reading aloud Emily's words describing her family and the small joys of life. Emily had written about the garden where she played, the neighbors she loved, and the dog who was her closest friend. The family felt a bittersweet connection growing. These weren't just old objects, but pieces of a life once full of love, laughter, and dreams. The diary also revealed why Emily had hidden the box beneath the floorboards. She wrote about wanting to keep her memories safe, especially during times when the house felt lonely or uncertain. It was her way of holding on to hope, a secret spot only she knew, where she could retreat whenever she needed. Mr. Johnson glanced around the room, imagining Emily sitting where Lily now sat, dreaming and hiding her treasures. This place has always been more than just a house, he said quietly. It's a keeper of stories. As the day wore on, the Johnsons felt the presence of the past more strongly. The house, with its creaky floors and peeling wallpaper, seemed to breathe, with the echoes of those who had lived there before. Every corner held a memory, every shadow a whisper of history. But the discovery also raised new questions. Who was the woman in the locket? What had happened to Emily and her family? Why had no one found the box until now? Determined to learn more, Mrs. Johnson suggested visiting the local library and town hall to search for records about the house and its past residents. Lily was excited by the idea. Maybe we can find Emily's family, she said, her eyes shining. Max seemed to understand the importance of their mission, staying close and offering comfort whenever the story felt heavy. That afternoon, the Johnsons took the box and diary with them, feeling the weight of history in their hands. They didn't realize it yet, but their discovery would soon touch many lives beyond their own. At the library, they pored over old newspapers and town records. With the help of a kind librarian, they found an article from decades ago about a family who once lived in their house, the same family Emily's diary described. The article mentioned Emily, a bright and beloved child who had tragically passed away in her early teens. It spoke of the community's mourning and the family's eventual move away from the town. Reading the article aloud, the Johnsons felt a wave of emotion. Emily's story was no longer just words in a diary. It was real, a life that had left its mark on this place. Back at home that evening, Lily hugged Max tightly. Thank you for finding Emily's secret, she whispered. Max rested his head on her lap, his eyes soft and knowing. The past was now open before them, and the Johnson family was ready to listen. The house had kept its secret for decades, but Thanks to a dog's strange obsession and a family willing to follow the clues, Emily's story was finally beginning to be told. Back in the quiet warmth of their home, the Johnson family sat together, the diary resting on the coffee table between them like a fragile bridge to the past. Mrs. Johnson gently opened it once more, flipping to a page where Emily's handwriting was still clear despite the years. As she read aloud, the room filled with the voice of a young girl who had once called this house her home. Emily's story was more than just dates and events. It was a glimpse into a childhood full of dreams, friendship, and small adventures. She wrote about playing in the garden with her dog, her favorite hiding spots, and the comfort she found in the little things that made life magical. But beneath the happy memories, a deeper sadness sometimes seeped through the pages. Emily had written about her family's struggles, whispers of worry about money, health, and the uncertain future. Her father had fallen ill, and the family faced hard decisions that weighed heavily on the little girl's heart. The diary showed Emily's courage, her hope, and the way she found to hold on to joy even when times were tough. Lily listened intently, eyes wide, imagining the girl who had lived here so many years ago. "She sounds like she was really brave," Lily said softly. "She was," Mrs. Johnson agreed, "and smart too. She knew to keep her memories safe, hiding this box under the floor where no one would find it." The family understood that Emily's diary wasn't just a journal. It was a treasure chest of feelings, a way for her to leave a piece of herself behind. As the days went on, the Johnsons learned more from the diary. Emily wrote about school friends, favorite books, and the dog she loved so much. The same dog Max resembled in the old photographs. The idea that Max could somehow be connected to Emily's past was both mysterious and comforting. One entry caught Mrs. Johnson's eye. It described a special day when Emily and her dog discovered a hidden patch of wildflowers behind the house. It was their secret place, a small sanctuary where Emily felt safe and happy. She wrote that she wished she could stay there forever, away from all the worries in the world. The Johnsons realized this garden spot still existed, though overgrown and forgotten. They decided to clear it and bring it back to life, a way to honor Emily's memory and the bond she shared with her dog. Mr. Johnson spent weekends pulling weeds and planting new flowers, while Lily helped carefully. Max, as if sensing the importance, stayed nearby, resting in the sun or watching over the work. At night, the family gathered around the diary, piecing together Emily's life bit by bit. They talked about the hopes she had, the sadness she felt, and the kindness she showed even when things were hard. The diary revealed a tender side of Emily that no one in town had known. She was more than a memory or a name on an old newspaper article. She was a girl who loved deeply and left a mark on the house and land she called home. The Johnsons began to feel a connection that went beyond time. A friendship formed through the pages of a diary and the silent guidance of a dog. One afternoon, while exploring the garden, Lily discovered a small stone marker, half hidden under ivy. It had a name carved faintly on it: Emily. The discovery felt like a message, a sign that Emily's spirit was still watching over the place. Tears welled in Mrs. Johnson's eyes. "She's still here, in a way," she whispered. The story of Emily, once forgotten, almost lost, was coming to life again, thanks to a dog's strange behavior and a family willing to listen. And as the Johnsons continued to uncover the past, they knew their home was now a place where memories could live on, where stories could be shared, and where love bridged generations. Max, their loyal golden retriever, lay nearby, the silent guardian of a secret that had waited so long to be found. The days following their discovery were filled with a quiet determination. The Johnson family was no longer just living in an old house. They were caretakers of Emily's legacy, tasked with uncovering the full truth behind the girl's story. Each morning brought new questions, and each evening, new fragments of a life both beautiful and heartbreaking. One rainy afternoon, Mr. Johnson decided to reach out to the local historical society. Maybe there were records or old residents who could fill in the blanks about Emily's family and why they had left so abruptly. With the diary and photographs safely packed, he set out for the society's modest building, nestled in the heart of the town. Inside, the walls were lined with photographs, documents, and artifacts from decades past. Kindly woman named Mrs. Caldwell welcomed him, her eyes lighting up when she heard about the discovery. She listened carefully as Mr. Johnson described the diary and the hidden box found beneath the floor. Emily Thompson, Mrs. Caldwell said softly, nodding. I remember her family well. They were good people, but they went through some very difficult times. She led Mr. Johnson to a stack of old files and newspaper clippings. One article detailed a tragic accident, the sudden illness of Emily's father, who had been the family's sole breadwinner. The illness had forced the family into financial hardship, and eventually they had to leave the town to seek help elsewhere. The family's departure was sudden and quiet. Mrs. Caldwell explained. There were whispers, but no one knew the full story. Emily was very young at the time, and it seemed she tried to hold on to her memories through that diary. Mr. Johnson felt a pang of sadness. Emily's life had been marked by loss and uncertainty, yet her spirit had endured through. The secret box and her writing. Meanwhile, back home, Mrs. Johnson shared the findings with Lily and Max. Lily hugged the diary tightly. Emily was really brave, she said. She didn't give up, even when things were hard. Max seemed to understand, resting his head on Lily's lap as if offering comfort. Inspired by the new information, the family decided to visit the old cemetery on the outskirts of town. They wanted to see if they could find the graves of Emily's family, to pay their respects and bring closure to the story. The cemetery was quiet and peaceful, with rows of weathered stones standing like sentinels. After some searching, they found a small, simple gravestone engraved with the name Emily Thompson. Nearby were stones for her parents. Mrs. Johnson placed a bouquet of wildflowers from their garden by the stone. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Emily, she whispered. We'll make sure you're never forgotten. Lily knelt beside the grave, her fingers tracing the letters. I wish I could have met her, she said softly. But I'm glad Max helped us find her secret. Back at the house that evening, the atmosphere was a blend of peace and poignancy. The diary, now filled with the context of Emily's life and loss, felt more precious than ever. As the family prepared for bed, Max once again returned to Lily's room. This time, instead of scratching at the floor, he lay quietly beside the spot where the box had been hidden. It was as if he was saying goodbye to the secret he had guarded for so long. Lily stroked Max's fur gently. Thank you, Max, for everything. The Johnson family knew their journey with Emily's story was far from over, but they also understood the power of remembering, how a dog's instinct had uncovered a hidden past and brought healing to a forgotten soul. The house, once silent and mysterious, now felt alive with stories and memories. And in every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, the spirit of Emily Thompson lived on. After their visit to the cemetery, a sense of calm settled over the Johnson family. The weight of the past seemed lighter now that they had connected Emily's diary and keepsakes to real people and places. Yet the experience had also sparked something deeper within them, a need to honor Emily's memory in a meaningful way. Lily, inspired by Emily's story and the garden she had once loved, suggested transforming the overgrown patch behind the house into a small memorial garden. We can plant flowers like Emily's wildflowers, she said eagerly, and it can be a place for everyone to remember her. The family agreed wholeheartedly. Over the next several weeks, The backyard blossomed with new life. Mr. Johnson cleared the weeds and tilled the soil, while Mrs. Johnson gathered seeds and plants from local nurseries. Lily, with Max by her side, planted the first flowers. Imagining Emily's smile as she tended her own secret garden so long ago, the project brought the family closer too. They shared stories, laughter, and even tears as they worked. It was as if Emily's spirit was guiding them, reminding them of the simple joys that endure even through hardship. One afternoon, while planting a patch of lavender, Mrs. Johnson paused and looked toward the house. "This discovery has changed us," she said softly. "It's made me realize how important it is to listen to the past, to each other, and to the little things we might overlook." Lily nodded, wiping dirt from her hands. "And to Max," she added with a grin. "He's the best detective we've ever had." Max wagged his tail happily, basking in the attention. As the garden flourished, neighbors began to take notice. Some stopped by to ask about the story behind the new flowers and the small plaque the Johnsons had placed near the entrance. It read, simply, "In memory of Emily Thompson, whose spirit lives on in this place." The community's interest grew, and soon the Johnson family found themselves sharing Emily's story with curious visitors. The house that had once seemed ordinary now held a special place in town. History. Mrs. Johnson arranged for the diary and photographs to be preserved and displayed in the local historical society, ensuring that Emily's story would be accessible to others who wanted to learn about the past. One evening, after a long day of gardening, the family sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in soft hues of pink and gold. Max rested his head on Lily's lap, his eyes peaceful. "Do you think Emily would be happy with what we've done?" Lily asked quietly. "I think she would be," Mr. Johnson replied. "We've helped her story live on, just like she wanted." The healing power of discovery was clear. The Johnsons had not only uncovered a secret hidden beneath a child's bedroom floor, they had breathed life into a forgotten history, finding connection and hope in the process. In their home, the echoes of the past now blended seamlessly with the present. The scratch marks on the floor, once a source of mystery and unease, had become a symbol of love and remembrance. And through it all, Max remained their loyal companion, a dog who had led them on a journey beyond the ordinary, teaching them that sometimes the smallest signs can open the door to the greatest stories. The seasons changed quietly outside the Johnson home, and with them came a new chapter in the story of Emily Thompson. What had begun as a dog's strange scratching under a floorboard had blossomed into a remarkable journey of discovery, healing, and connection, one that transformed the Johnson family, their neighborhood, and even the house itself. The memorial garden behind the house was now a colorful sanctuary, where wildflowers swayed gently in the breeze, and butterflies danced between blossoms. Visitors came often, drawn by the story of the girl who had once hidden her treasures beneath the floorboards. Many left notes or small tokens, touched by the tale of courage and hope. Inside the house, the box that Max had helped uncover was safely displayed in a glass case, alongside Emily's diary and photographs. The local historical society had agreed to host an exhibit about Emily's life, making her story a permanent part of the town's heritage. For the Johnson family, the experience left a deep mark. They had learned to listen to their dog's instincts, to the whispers of the past, and to each other. Max remained an ever-present guardian, his gentle eyes always watching over them. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped low, Mr. Johnson sat in the living room, reading a letter they had recently received from a distant relative of Emily's. The letter expressed gratitude for honoring Emily's memory and shared stories of the family's later years, stories of love, resilience, and new beginnings. "This means so much," Mrs. Johnson said, sitting beside him. "Emily's story has grown beyond this house, beyond our little town." Lily smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known before. It's like we're part of something bigger now. As they looked around their home, the Johnsons noticed small signs of change, subtle yet meaningful. The air felt lighter, the rooms warmer, and the bond between them stronger. The story of Emily Thompson had become a legacy, a reminder that every life leaves traces, no matter how hidden, and that sometimes it takes a dog's curiosity to uncover them. On a crisp summer morning, the family gathered in the garden to celebrate the anniversary of their discovery. They planted a new tree, its young branches reaching toward the sky like a symbol of growth and hope. Max lay nearby, his tail wagging softly as he watched the family laugh and share stories. The dog, who had once scratched under the floor now, rested peacefully, his mission fulfilled. As the day came to a close, Lily whispered to Max, "Thank you for helping us find Emily." Max's eyes shone with quiet understanding, and in that moment, the house no longer felt like just a place to live. It was a home filled with memories, love, and the enduring spirit of a girl who had once dreamed beneath its floors. The Johnson family knew they had been given a precious gift, the chance to bring light to a forgotten past and to carry forward a story that would inspire generations to come. And so, beneath the floorboards, in the garden, and in the hearts of those who remembered, Emily Thompson's story lived on unseen, but never forgotten, just like the love that had hidden in the quiet scratches of a dog's paws.